Hello, and welcome to our fourth video in our series on dealing with anxiety. In our first video, we looked at Jesus' words on worrying, and we looked at some tangible ways we could help to ease our anxiety and deal with worrying. In the second video, we considered prayer as an option. And then in our last video, we looked at Bible study. And so today I want to look at something that is also very, very important in dealing with anxiety. I'd like us to look in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 1, verse 29. As soon as they left the synagogue, they went into Simon and Andrew's house with James and John. Simon's mother-in-law was lying in bed with a fever, and they told him about her at once. So he went to her, took her by the hand, and raised her up. The fever left her, and she began to serve them. When evening came, after the sun had set, they began bringing to him all those who were sick and those who were demon-possessed. The whole town was assembled at the door, and he healed many who were sick with various diseases and drove out many demons. But he would not permit the demons to speak, because they knew him. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, he got up, went out, and made his way to a deserted place. And he was praying there. Simon and his companions went searching for him. They found him and said, "Everybody's looking for you." And he said to them, "Let's go on to the neighboring villages so that I may preach there too. This is why I have come." So he went into all of Galilee, preaching in their synagogues and driving out demons. There's several things that we could get out of this passage, but I want us to ask just a couple of questions. So Jesus did this miraculous thing by healing Simon Peter's mother-in-law in Capernaum. And then the word got out, and many people, the whole village was there, and many people needed to be healed and needed to see Jesus and be with Jesus. And so what does it say? Very early in the morning, he got back up and went right back to work, right back to healing, right back to casting out demons, right back to doing what he was doing. No, it doesn't. It says very early in the morning, while it was still dark, he got up and went to a deserted place by himself to pray. Do you know what Jesus was doing? In our terminology today, we would say that Jesus was practicing good self-care. Self-care seems to be a buzzword, at least it is in my house when you have a wife who's a therapist, but self-care means that we take care of ourselves. And that doesn't mean selfishness. It doesn't mean that we look out for number one first. Rather, it's more like what you would think of when you get on an airplane and they always tell you to put your own mask on first before you help others. What self-care means is if we really truly want to help other people, that we first need to make sure that we are in a position to be able to help them. And in order for us to be in a position to be able to help someone else, that means that we have to take care of ourselves and our own responsibilities first. That means that it's no good for us if we're helping someone else, but we're neglecting ourselves to the extent that other people then have to take care of us. Then what gain and what benefit have we done? So what self-care means is self-care means making sure that I am in a position to where I can be of assistance to someone else, making sure that I've met and taken care of my needs and I've responsibly taken care of myself so that I can then do what I need to do to take care of other people. You see, Jesus was, our understanding of Jesus, Scripture says he was fully human. And so that means that he was tired and that he needed to rest, and that he also needed to take care of himself spiritually by spending one-on-one time with the Father. It also means that, like we said in the first video, prioritizing. Jesus had to prioritize. You know, when Jesus came to earth, yes, he fed the 5,000, but when he died on the cross, there were still people that got hungry again. Yes, he raised Lazarus from the dead, and yes, he healed people, but when Jesus died on the cross, there were still people who were sick, still people who needed to be healed. What Jesus had to do was prioritize Even from an early age, when he was 12 and they found him in the temple, what did Jesus say? I must be about my Father's business. And so if Jesus had to prioritize, and if Jesus had to look at people sometimes and say, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going back to the village to finish healing everyone else. I've got to move on and do other things. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to be the people back at the village that were looking for Jesus, and they get word, well, hey, did you find Jesus? Where's Jesus? And they said, yeah, we found him, all right. He's going on to the next village. I'm sure they weren't happy. But what was a greater concern to Jesus than making everyone happy was doing the work of God and doing the work that he was sent here to do. And so while there's a lot to unpack in this passage, I do think it's a perfect example of self-care. It's a perfect example of Jesus doing what he needs to do to take care of himself so that he can do what he needs to do to take care of the sins of the world. Self-care is not about selfishness. It's actually about sacrificing. Only when we do proper self-care, then can we make the sacrifices that we need to make to care for other people, right? Because if Jesus hadn't practiced self-care, if he busied himself so much with simply feeding and healing, there would have been a lot of healthy, well-fed people who still needed salvation. And so Jesus prioritized. So part of self-care means that we take care of ourselves physically, and we take care of ourselves emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. I had a call once from, it was a family member who was upset, very upset with me, because she had found out that I had gotten a lot of food, and I was passing out food, and the comment that she made was, well, we didn't even have dinner that night, and here you were passing out food to other people. And I said, well, I'm sorry, I didn't know. You didn't call. And she said, you didn't call and check on me. Well, see, part of self-care means is that we don't simply sit back and wait for other people to anticipate our needs and attempt to meet them. Part of self-care is that we let our needs be known. I'm not going to sit here and suffer from a heart attack or suffer from problems and then get angry and say, well, the doctor never called and checked on me. If I need to see the doctor, I'm going to call the doctor. I'm going to make an appointment. And if I'm really bad and she says, well, I'm sorry, I can't see you for 6 months, then I'm going to call someone else. And then I'm going to call someone else. And if I get really bad, I'll call 911 or go to the ER. I'm not going to simply say, well, I'm just going to sit here and suffer until someone comes and checks on me. So part of self-care means to take care of our own needs. And sometimes that may mean calling someone and saying, hey, can you help me out with some food? Or, hey, do you have a second? I need someone to talk to. That's okay, and that's important for us to do. Or to say, you know what, I need some time alone. And so self-care means taking care of ourselves, like we said, physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. Part of that means that during this time of stay-at-home order, I'm going to give you just some tips, and you can look at many others. Get a right amount of sleep, not too much, not too little. It's not healthy if we don't get enough sleep, but it's also not healthy if we lay in bed all the time. So get an amount of sleep. Set a bedtime, go to bed, set an alarm, and get up at a routine time. I'm not saying you have to get up at 7, 6, 5, 8, 9, 10. I'm just saying, if you want to wake up at 10, then wake up at 10 every day. Don't wake up at noon some days and 8 other days. If you want to get up at 6, get up at 6. But establish a routine, or maintain a routine. And if that doesn't help, then you can't maintain your routine, then establish a new routine that I'm going to get up every day at this time. And then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this. I'm going to make my bed. I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to get breakfast. I'm going to call these people. I'm going to check on these people. I'm going to spend some time in prayer, spend some time in Bible study. But whatever, is just establish a routine and stick to that routine. That helps us practice good self-care, and it helps to ease our anxiety. Another thing, I apologize if you think this is a little too forward, but my goodness, practice good hygiene. Just because you're not going to leave the house for a week doesn't mean you shouldn't shower for a week. That's part of self-care. That's part of managing anxiety is to practice good hygiene. Get up, take a shower, take off your nighttime pajamas and put on your nice go into Walmart pajamas, fix your hair, do whatever you need to do, but take care and practice the good hygiene. Again, hypocrisy alert, but practice good diet and exercise. It's not like you can go to the gym, but the weather's starting to break. You can at least get out and walk around the block, walk to the mailbox a couple of times. Practice, get up and move around a little bit. And be careful about the junk food, okay? Because that makes us, it's not healthy, and it makes us feel blah. And it also, when we do that, can increase our depression and anxiety. And also part of taking care of ourselves emotionally, which seems odd in a time like this, the time when we're have a stay-at-home order, but make sure to spend some time alone. When we're cooped up in a house with other people, it's like we're all alone, but at the same time, we're never alone, right? So say, you know what, for this hour, I'm going to go in my room, you go in your room, I'm going to do my thing, you do your thing. Spend some time alone. And then perhaps if you live alone, and part of the problem is too much time alone, then make sure to take the initiative and call some folks. Part of that routine is establish the routine is call someone every day. Make it a part of a cycle to call different people and check on them, but just to maintain that interaction and that relationship. So this last thing of managing anxiety would be to practice good self-care. And what is self-care? It's taking the initiative to take care of myself, not because I'm so important, but if I take care of myself, someone else doesn't have to take care of me. And the converse would, of course, be equally true, because then if I'm not taking care of myself, not only am I not able to take care of other people, then I'm going to require someone else to take care of me. And so I encourage you to practice good self-care, stick with that routine, and realize that we'll get through this together, and we're going to be stronger as a result of it. Thanks, and I'll be posting some new videos soon, and looking forward to Palm Sunday service on Sunday. Have a good afternoon.